Coming up on today's show, Michelle High is from Portland, Oregon, and runs the Instagram page Polyamorous While Asian, which seeks to normalize non-monogamy and amplify the voices of other people of color who are significantly underrepresented in non-monogamous communities. She works to educate from an intersectional lens, offers peer support sessions, and touches on topics related to body confidence, sex positivity, and more. Welcome to Loving Without Boundaries, where we hear inspiring stories, share actionable advice, and talk about the challenges and the joys of ethical non-monogamy and polyamory. I'm your host, Kitty Shambliss. Coming up after the break, my conversation with Michelle High.
Are you bored with dick pics? Do random hookups and empty chats kill your vibe? Tired of being catfished or wasting time with messages from faceless profiles? Then you need to get Monogamish, a new dating app designed for singles and couples of all genders and sexualities looking for dates, mates, and everything in between. Access exclusive matchmaking events, workshops with dating and sexuality gurus, and exclusive offers so hot you'll just have to see for yourself. Download Monogamish for free from Google Play or the Apple App Store. Monogamish. Explore fluid relationships.
Welcome back to Loving Without Boundaries, where I am really, truly excited to be here with Michelle High, who is the creator of the Instagram page Polyamorous While Asian. I'm really excited to get to know you better and to talk to you today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited to chat.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I've already shared your bio with everyone, but I'd love to give you an opportunity to just share a little bit about yourself in your own words before we start to dive in.
Yeah. Me in a nutshell. I'm born and raised in Portland, Oregon. I've been doing the non-monogamy thing actively since about 2012, which is kind of wild to think about. But yeah, I identify as, some of my labels, solo polyamorous with relationship anarchy leanings, bisexual. My educational background is in applied linguistics, but I don't specifically do anything with that. And yeah, I've been running the page Polyamorous While Asian since about March 2020. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. It looks like you've got a ton of subscribers since you only started in 2020. That's incredible.
Well, it's like we suddenly found ourselves just at home with a lot of time in our hands for some reason in March 2020. So yeah, a lot of people were at home and I was at home, so just started creating content about my experiences.
Mm-hmm. Well, it certainly paid off. That's very clear. So good for you. That's awesome. So I'd love to just understand a little bit more. I love to ask what I call the light bulb question. So as you were growing up, whether it was when you were very young or maybe a young adult, was there a light bulb moment or maybe a series of moments where you realized that maybe you were going to be coloring outside of the lines of heteronormative monogamy in some way, shape, or form?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for a long time. I don't think it wasn't until I was 18 that I formally came across the terms non-monogamy or polyamory. Before that, as a child of divorce, I developed misgivings around monogamy, but I didn't really have the vocabulary around it. I would just have these thoughts while watching, say, rom-coms or something, where like someone has to choose between two people who are, otherwise like they both seem like fine choices. One example that I bring up a lot because my mother watched this movie a lot was Sweet Home Alabama. Reese Witherspoon's got to choose between two guys who like they're like really good matches for her, and so I started thinking. Just having these thoughts of, can't they share? Is that a thing they could talk about maybe and schedule and like, I don't know, just talk it out, right? Is this a thing? But for all intents and purposes, I was still on the kind of monogamy train and thinking about marriage and whatnot. But yeah, it wasn't until my first partner recommended that I read the book Sex at Dawn when I was 18 and it just clicked. Yeah, I had never come across these terms before, but the way that this book described non-monogamy through a sort of anthropological lens, it just made a lot of sense to me, and I just haven't turned back since. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. Yeah, and I love asking that question because I've rarely heard the same answer twice. And it's so interesting I've been doing this podcast now since 2015, the summer of 2015, and I didn't hear the word polyamory until I was about 38 years old, and I was reading The Ethical Slut,
Yes, classic.
Exactly. And then about maybe book 3 was Sex at Dawn, which I admit I didn't quite finish because it's really thick and heavy.
It is thick. Yeah, it is kind of textbook-like in some cases, yeah. I haven't visited it since then.
Yeah. I probably got about 60%. I was like, okay, I think I got the gist.
Right, I got it.
Yeah. But that's great. Thanks for sharing that. And once you had that epiphany, if you will, was it pretty much a natural pathway for you, or was there still some ebbs and flows in there towards consensual non-monogamy?
I think like I would say probably like the majority of people's experiences in exploring non-monogamy, bumpy ride in the beginning, very bumpy ride. And for this like portion of my life, part of it was because the person who introduced me to non-monogamy wasn't like especially ethical about it. Like he already had a girlfriend like when he had met me, but he didn't tell me until like after, giving me Sex at Dawn. And I remember having this thought that I think I understand why you're giving me this book. But 18 years old, wanting to experience the world, I went along with it. And yeah, it was very bumpy. Like at that time in my life, I didn't realize that boundaries were a thing, much less a necessary or good thing. I didn't know that there were certain things that I could feel reasonable in requesting or needing in a relationship to feel safe and secure. I wanted to basically impress this partner, especially since he was about 14 years older than me, and I wanted to prove that I could handle this non-monogamy thing, like this really seemingly mature, advanced thing. And so, yeah, the beginning 4 or 5-ish years that we were together, I would say it was pretty bumpy, but I did learn a lot of lessons. And yeah, I feel like after I left that relationship, I finally started really hitting my stride with the non-monogamy thing.
And thank you for sharing that so vulnerably. And I'm excited for you that you got to learn about that at a young age, since I was literally 20 years older when I first realized that as well, which is probably why I even created this podcast, is to share these stories so that more people can get these concepts as quickly as possible with as much information as possible. So you mentioned that your partner at the time who introduced you to the book Sex at Dawn wasn't being completely ethical. Just out of curiosity, was that one of the things that eventually caused you to part ways? Like, did you find out that some information was being hidden from you?
So with this relationship, I stayed for a long time. Part of it was because of this irrational like pride thing where it's like, oh, I didn't want to be like that 18-year-old who like shacked up with this guy, and then like of course it didn't turn out well. And so I stuck it out for way too long. And it wasn't necessarily just like those unethical parts of the non-monogamy that finally gave me the courage or just gave me the motivation to be like, I am done with this relationship forever. There were just a lot of other patterns. Like even though he was the one who introduced me to non-monogamy, he had only read Sex at Dawn maybe a couple months before. And so he had trouble like handling jealousy and things like that. And it's like, it was okay for him to feel jealousy, but he would always put it off on me. He would, it just seemed very difficult to him to take accountability for things. It was a very like incendiary relationship. It got to the point where we were fighting at least once a week. It was very difficult to see eye to eye on a lot of things and to have like smooth communication and just kind of like reasonable, like we're on the same team kind of communication.
I see. Yeah.
And I think it's not a coincidence that like it's finally when I graduated college, got my first full-time job, and had encountered like other partners who were like much more like healthy in their communication and relationship style, that I was finally like, oh, I can leave and I can have more of that safety net and not just be floating by myself, and it'll be okay.
Thank you for sharing that. That's just really beautiful to hear. And I think it's a great understanding too, that you have that you gave yourself permission, and you were also listening to your feelings, and hey, it's something here just doesn't feel right. So I love that you were able to eventually leave when that seemed like the right thing for you to do. And then also have the experience of being in other relationships that just kind of felt healthier to you, and have some other those other role models, instead of kind of calling yourself a failure because that relationship didn't work out, because you're only one piece of that relationship, right? There's the other person too. So thank you for sharing that. What were maybe some of your other challenges when you were kind of stepping out into this world, whether we're talking about non-monogamy, or maybe when you realized that you were bisexual, whatever else you'd like to share about some of the challenges that you faced?
Yeah, I would say that, like, even though I've just talked about how like terrible some of it was, kind of being out as non-monogamous or bisexual has been fairly easy. Because in general, I tend to be a fairly private person, which is kind of a weird thing to say with like a very public Instagram. But in my day-to-day, it just doesn't particularly matter to me much to bring it up unless it is a relevant thing. Like, one, I just don't care to evangelize, and I don't care to justify myself to people. So if I feel like I'm in a safe enough space, or in a space that's like open enough, like, yeah, I'll bring up that I'll have multiple partners, or that I'm bisexual or something like that. Otherwise, like, the only difficult part of that journey was basically just that interpersonal relationship, was that specific relationship. Otherwise, I don't think I ever had, it just became very clear very quickly that the non-monogamy part of that relationship was not at all the problem with it, that it felt very natural. And eventually I was able to like realize it is more of like a relationship orientation to me, similar to how I feel about my bisexuality. And yeah, there's just a lot of things wrong with that relationship. But the non-monogamy aspect of it, like, it's little bumps and figuring things out, but it has felt fairly smooth otherwise.
Wow. I've obviously done a lot of interviews, and you're one of the few people that told me that it was pretty smooth for you. But I'm happy for you. That's amazing. And it also can give other people a lot of hope. Like, they don't have to go through a huge, awful kind of birthing of that. So, it is possible to have it be more or less smooth. So I appreciate you sharing that as an example. And here we definitely are looking through the lens of living your most authentic life in a way that works for you from kind of a broad scale. So was there a light bulb moment for you around identifying as bisexual, or even relationship anarchist leaning?
Yeah, I always think it's really silly and really funny because it was a weird light bulb moment to explicitly describe myself as bisexual, though I think I was already like being bisexual, if that already makes sense. I just never in like the front of my mind said to myself, oh, Michelle, you're bisexual. I was literally like I was involved with two people who are a couple, and I'm still in a relationship with them today, where I'm like literally in the middle of a cuddle puddle with them. And I finally realized, like, oh, duh, you're bisexual, silly. But it wasn't a difficult thing. It wasn't like a harsh revelation or anything. It just felt like a duh kind of light bulb moment. Because growing up, I don't know, like whenever I would fantasize about like, men and women and stuff like that. But again, it just didn't seem like a bisexual thing. It just felt like I was just doing whatever I was doing and thinking about whatever I was thinking about. And so, yeah, I think I was in my early 20s, probably around like 24, 23-ish when I finally had that like, oh, duh moment. But yeah, that was like shockingly easy, and probably even smoother than the coming to the realization that I'm not monogamous. Yeah.
Awesome. That's incredible. And I was looking at I did start following you on Instagram. So, and I was looking in your bio, your Instagram page, Polyamorous While Asian, and you describe it as which seeks to normalize non-monogamy and amplify the voices of people of color who are significantly underrepresented in non-monogamous communities. I'd love it if you would speak to that intersectionality of being Asian, describing yourself as non-monogamous and bisexual. Like what are some of the struggles in being underrepresented there that that you would like to share here?
Yeah. Like, I think like Kevin Patterson had put it really well in his book Love's Not Colorblind, where it's like, oh, if you don't see yourself represented, like it just looks like polyamory is just white people shit, right? Like it's not for you. When in reality, like there's so many different types of people who do non-monogamy, and there's so many people who do non-monogamy a lot more privately because there's still the possibility of discrimination and things like and stigma. And so, yeah, when I started the page, part of it was I was just like looking for, other Asians who are polyamorous, like openly polyamorous. And I was having a hard time trying to find that. Like when I would Google like, Asian polyamory, it would just come up with like a Reddit, Reddit about like, oh, what's polyamory like in China or something like that. I'm like, I don't know, like I'm obviously here. I exist in this demographic and I know there are more out there. And so, yeah, so that's why I started the page, because I'm in a place in my life where, there will be no great repercussions if I'm very publicly out. I don't live with my family, so I'm not going to get kicked out. Like, so far, my job hasn't really cared. So fingers crossed about that. Yeah, it's like representation in and of itself is not enough for like social change. But it is definitely an important step, just to be able to see that, like, oh, someone is out there doing a thing that, either I've been kind of thinking about in the back of my mind, but have been worried that, I just can't do that in this life, or they've never even fully thought of it. Or, like before I had read Sex at Dawn, I'd never heard of non-monogamy or polyamory. But once I came across that, it was just like, like you were saying, like the light bulb moment of like, oh, this is a thing that I could do, or this is a thing that I could be. Yeah, so that's like a main reason why I started the page, and like I'm keeping the page going just to, I don't know, it almost feels like trite, but like to give people hope and to be like, hey, I've been doing this for over a decade now. I'm doing it pretty sustainably, and I'm pretty happy with where I'm at. And everyone's circumstances are different, but it is a possibility. It's something that, you can expand your idea of relationships.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I'd love to ask, and you said you started it in early 2020, was that right?
Yeah. Like I literally started like February 27th or something, and then the world shut down a couple weeks later.
Wow. What timing. So who would you say, it's obviously called Polyamorous for All Asian, but would you say this, like, who would you say your target audience is for your Instagram page that you are looking to reach or to give hope to, just to be a little bit more specific?
Yeah, like, I mean, with the name itself, I would definitely want to speak to like other like Asian people, and like as Asian Americans, so like, other Asian Americans who, are interested in non-monogamy or are non-monogamous but can't be very public about it. Like I've had people message me about like, hey, it's really cool seeing a polyamorous Asian person. Like I can't be out. And like, this is my, like, my fake Instagram, but like, yeah, I just want to say that it's nice to see someone, who like, isn't just white, is, like, East Asian and is like speaking out about a lot of these things. And yeah, so that's why I also like to talk about like the politics, that go with non-monogamy and relationships in general as well. And so yeah, I would say that my demographic are people who are interested in non-monogamy, old and new, but who are also interested in deeper discussions around polyamory, because we can talk about like metamors and jealousy and compersion and like all those basic things all day long, but I'm really interested in like the meat of it, where it's like how can we change the way we view relationships in general, not just like our romantic and sexual ones.
Okay. So just to make sure I'm hearing you, so it seems like the goal of of your Instagram page is to have these conversations, have a really broad lens, create a safe place to have these talks, and to represent Asians and create that space as well. But it sounds like you're also kind of welcoming anyone who's curious, anyone who's practicing polyamory, but representing that demographic as well, to say, hey, I'm here, and come, like kind of like with an open arms. Does that sound right?
Yeah. Like basically, if you're interested in learning, if you're interested in hearing about my lived experience, then that's cool. Like, even if you don't like fully agree with everything that I do or that I say, but as long as you're respectful, you're totally welcome here. And I can't say that I'm like an ambassador of like the polyamorous Asians out there. I'm just one person with my one lived experience. And so I'm happy to try to share that lived experience to help others feel, more hopeful and more courageous in being able to explore their lives more authentically. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I'm really excited to be able to, now that I'm aware of it, to be able to share this and follow you and offer that as a place that people in my community, the Living Without Boundaries community, can go. And I don't know if you're aware, I live with my two partners. So there's my husband, who's kind of classically Caucasian. His family's from Norway. And my other partner is 100% Latino. His mother is from the Dominican Republic and his father's from Puerto Rico. And he can kind of pass, as Caucasian, but once you hear that he's Latino, you're like, yeah, I totally see that, But I'm excited to tell him about your Instagram page. And just for anyone who is looking to have there are so many different places to get information and to normalize the conversation around non-monogamy. And I love that you're really being out and proud as polyamorous, bisexual, and Asian. So, thank you for the work that you're doing. That's awesome. What would you say is the most rewarding thing about having this Instagram page out there, and maybe the most challenging thing about it as well?
Yeah. The most rewarding thing, like, God, it sounds so corny, but like when I get those little messages of like, hey, I really appreciate you, like maybe speaking out about this specific thing, or helping me think about, rethink jealousy, or rethinking, concepts around like hierarchy, or introducing me to like relationship anarchy, or things like that, where it's like, hey, or like I've been able to maybe bring this information back to my partners and talk about this, or back to the polycule. And I love that it's, that my content can help people, think about like their own journey while also bringing other people into that. So that's super rewarding. That's always super nice to like read those messages. On the flip side, like being like a semi-public figure, having to exercise really strong boundaries around that. Because people, because on social media, sometimes there can be this entitlement to knowing more about your life. Like I do share a lot about my life and a lot of like intimate details and stuff like that. But there can be, from some, definitely a minority, fortunately, who can feel an entitlement or can kind of, just insert themselves like into my life and being like, oh, you shouldn't do this or that, without really knowing the context or the rest of the story, or to become too familiar. And so, just having to exercise strong boundaries. That's probably, one of the more challenging aspects, but I feel like it hasn't been too bad over the past few years.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I created the first blog post when it was December of 2012. So it's been over 11 years that I've been doing this work, and it's definitely ebbed and flowed, but I hear what you're saying. And sometimes I get hit on it a lot because people misunderstand what sex positivity and consensual non-monogamy is all about. Is that an experience that you've had as well?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like, oh, you're polyamorous, bisexual, you talk about sex and kink. That means you're just down for anything and everyone, right?
Right. Exactly.
So yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, you starting this in 2015, like the amount over the years. Yeah.
Yeah. And is there any message that you feel you could say for folks who might be listening to give them, from your perspective, a better lens about how to think about that?
Yeah. I mean, social media is such a weird liminal space of like, you can really get to know someone in very intimate ways without really getting to know a person. Because I could share like, like sex club adventures and things like that, and share like stories from the polycule. But there's so many aspects of my life that I just don't talk about because I prefer to keep them private, or I don't post photos of partners and things because, they're private. I choose to be public, but they, live their private lives.
Yeah.
So I think with social media, just remembering that it's a tool that we can use to connect with one another, but also remembering very much that boundaries need to be had on social media. Be respectful, and I don't know, like be respectful. Really, it just boils down to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The only thing I think that was beautiful. I mean, for me, the only thing I would add is consent, in terms of
yes.
don't send unsolicited dick pics,
Oh my God. Right.
Like there's this thing called consent. So, because I mean, it could be great with a partner or loved one, or with consent, right? Or even somebody new, but ask first. So, but that goes very much in line with your respecting boundaries and, using common courtesy.
Ask first and like be open to no. Yeah. Be open to hearing no.
Beautiful. Yeah. So what are some of maybe, where else would you say that you are now on your journey in terms of either your life and living out loud and proud, or with your work here with the Instagram page, Polyamorous While Asian? What comes up for you that you'd like to share about where you are now?
Yeah. Like, I have been doing the more like solo polyamorous thing for the past about, I think 6 or 7 years now. Wow, it's just wild to think about the passing of time. But yeah, so with that, for me, that means I really prefer not living with partners. And I live alone too, which has been like super nice. And like I don't, pay bills with partners and things like that. Which doesn't mean that I don't support partners when that's needed. But yeah, so I think like the solo polyamory thing seems to be what I'm doing right now, but like who knows what I'll be doing in like 5-10 years. It could be completely different. So I'm open to a lot of changes. Like someday, I do wish to be able to like live a lot closer to partners or other loved ones. Even people, I don't know, friends, partners, because like I don't know, trying to make our way through this life just like solo and like having to pay all the rent by yourself and things like that is tough. So like I don't plan on having children or anything like that. So my goal like through the decades will be to just continue to cultivate more and more community and more people that I can rely on and who can rely on me. And like that's not explicitly or exclusive to polyamory, but definitely the way that I'm going to do it. It's going to be interwoven for sure.
Beautiful. That sounds exciting, and I absolutely wish you all the best with all of that. What would you say is maybe the most rewarding aspect of living your most authentic life in a way that works for you? Anything come up for you?
Yeah, I mean, simply, it's a lot of fun. Like I'm having a good time. Like it can be a weird juxtaposition because of like what can go on in the world, and like it can be hard to reconcile sometimes of like, oh, like I'm actually doing fairly well for myself, but then there's like a lot of news and a lot of politics, and yeah, it can just be hard to reconcile. So like it is rewarding, talking about how like it can be really fun, it can be really just very fulfilling, like physically, mentally, emotionally, to be able to like do non-monogamy and kind of not be so strict with relationships in general, like with family or friends or, like people you have sex with, or like it can really expand that. But also I feel like it helps me feel more in tune with like things that go on around me, like in general, like what's going on in the world, what's going on in my neighborhood, the city at large. I feel like I was a little rambly with that answer, but yeah, I feel like that is kind of like the most rewarding aspect.
I love that. I love that. So a lot of fun and just being able to build the community and be yourself. I love that. How about is there anything else that maybe I haven't asked you that you would love to share with our community that you feel would be impactful or helpful, or maybe give some hope to anybody who might be listening?
Yeah. I mean, like the hope aspect for it, where there are a lot more people out there like living their best non-monogamous life than like you probably realize. Like so many of these people have to do it privately because, again, like we were talking about earlier, so a lot of stigma. People can still get fired or, have child protective services called on them if they have a family. But a lot of people are out there doing it. And it's not just the people that you see like on Instagram and like the curated feeds that we put out on Instagram. Most of it also is very boring. Like, sure, I'll share stories about like at the sex club or this and that. But the most beautiful parts of non-monogamy are the mundane parts where it's like I'm just hanging out at a partner and I'm at his like living room and we're watching a thing together or playing video games together. Or, I'm just grocery shopping with another partner, helping to like body double with them because we both have ADHD. And yeah, so much of it is mundane. And it can be very difficult to start off in your non-monogamy journey because there just aren't like the societal supports around it. But people are out there, people are doing it, and you can fuck up a lot. Like, you're gonna fuck up a lot. But as long as you keep checking in with yourself about what you want and need, and what your, loved ones want and need, like, it's gonna be okay. Yeah.
Well, that was a beautiful message of hope. I love that. Very relatable, too. Very relatable. Awesome. So I'd love to take you into what I call the lightning round, and then we'll start to wrap up our interview. So that sound good to you?
Yeah, sounds great.
Awesome. Okay. So there's a few more questions that are meant to be kind of fun, and you can either underscore something you've already said or share something new. So the first question is, what's either the best advice you've ever received in living your most authentic life, or maybe the best thing that you've done on your journey towards that?
Yeah. Right. So the best advice that I've learned over the years, that is really foundational to everything. It's just like the importance of boundaries, really. And that's just like good boundaries for one is good for boundaries for all. And people who want to be in your life will respect your boundaries, and, vice versa with you and other people's boundaries. So yeah, boundaries are important. Cannot 100%. Like emphasize that enough.
100%. Love that. And how about if somebody is either considering maybe opening up their relationship or identifying more as polyamorous, or in some way coloring outside the lines of heteronormative monogamy, what would maybe be a piece of advice or a tip that you would give them if they're kind of like just at the beginning of that journey?
Yeah. I always like semi-jokingly say this, but it's all I also believe this, where it's like, get ready to get your shit rocked. Like, it's like there are some people, of course, who, explore relationships that aren't too dissimilar from, conventional monogamous relationships. But if you're really looking to kind of strip off the, what am I trying to say? Like, strip off the weights of like mononormativity and all of the normativities, like, be prepared to do a lot of homework, like read books, listen to podcasts, follow like social media accounts, whatever medium is best for you, but do your homework by yourself, do your homework with, like if you're partnered, do the homework with a partner so that you can be on the same page. And also it's super important to be honest with yourself. Don't just do the non-monogamy thing because you're being pressured into it to like save a relationship that almost never works. And yeah, be ready to do a lot of introspection. Like, there's the stereotype that polyamorous people just talk the shit out of our relationships, and it is true. And and it can be very hard, but it is very important to be able to do that work alone and together, while also, of course, like preventing burnout. So remember to have fun. The point of this all is to have better relationships, to alleviate burdens. And so do the work, take breaks, go back to doing the work. Yeah.
I love that. Do the work, take breaks, go back to doing the work. That's awesome. Very cool. Very succinct. Just a couple more questions. Would you say, is there either a book or a resource or even a movie that you felt was really impactful or helpful that you would like to share with our listeners?
I think, like you mentioned the ethical slut earlier, I think it's still a very good intro. It doesn't, and you don't have to necessarily be into non-monogamy in order to take a lot of very valuable lessons from that book. Like you can be monogamous and still live your best slut life and be authentic and feel great about like your sexual orientation and just your body and everything like that. So I feel like, the ethical slut. And then a more recent book, I found that Polysecure was fairly helpful. Like I think if you're already familiar with attachment theory, it's less helpful, but it's a good basis for, I think, like what I was talking about earlier of self-introspection as well as that like relational work and having frameworks around that. And then also like another podcast, like I have really enjoyed the Multi-Amory podcast. That helped me a lot. And I think that's a really good, very vast resource.
Love it. Okay. So The Ethical Slut, which we talked about earlier. We also talked about Sex at Dawn, the book Polysecure, and the Multi-Amory podcast. Awesome. Some great classics there. And lastly, for fun, is there any type of music or particular song that really moves you or excites you, just to end on a fun note like that?
Yeah, so I wouldn't like one song, but like I'm a fan of the opera girly, like ever since I was 11. Fan of the opera will always like move me. It's got me in its claws. Like puberty Michelle. It's got me in its like clenches and he won't let go. And I got fan of the opera. That's my final answer.
That's a new one. I haven't gotten that one as the answer. That's really cool. All right. Well, it's been such a pleasure getting to know you, Michelle. I really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation with me and for the work that you're doing. I think it's beautiful. So I really want to encourage you to keep going. That's awesome. And how can people find you and your work?
Yeah, so I primarily live on Instagram at polyamorous while Asian. So feel free to message me there. And then I also, whenever I post to the feed on Instagram, I'll also post it to my website, polyamorouswhileasian.com. So you don't have to just live on Instagram. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
All right. Well, this has been absolutely lovely. And I just wish you all the success in the world. And you can always come back on the podcast in the future if you'd like to sometime.
Thank you. Had a lot of fun. Yeah, thanks so much for having me on.
Thanks for tuning in to today's show. If you like what you heard, are struggling with some aspect of your relationships, and you're interested in seeing if you're a fit to work with me as your relationship coach, here's what I invite you to do next. Head over to lovingwithoutboundaries.com/apply. That's lovingwithoutboundaries.com/apply and book a call to speak with me. I'll get on the phone with you for about 45 minutes and we'll get you crystal clear on 3 things. Number 1, exactly what's not working well in your relationships right now. Number 2, ideally where you'd like to be and what might be getting in the way. And number 3, the exact strategy to get you there, helping to close that gap. Remember, creating healthy, open relationships does not typically happen by itself. Many often need expert guidance to make it happen. We've helped clients all over the world to feel safe, happy, and secure in open relationships while not losing their mind or their cherished partners. To see if we can help you do the same, head over to lovingwithoutboundaries.com/apply. I'm Kitty Chambliss, and let's talk soon.